Like, you look at the way C9 plays, and I'm not even sure they could make playoff if they play like this in LEC.
Playoffs was only like top 8 or something ridiculous. Like, okay, fair enough.
Are they beating Los Ratones though? Are they doing that? Like,
okay, now he's doubling down. Okay, now would Cloud9 even beat Los Ratones? Is that the new take?
Yeah.
Okay. Hot Take Point Made League of Legends Edition has returned, and this time we're not just talking hot takes, we're also decked out in some new gear. Shout out to our sponsor Into the Aim, who, if you don't know, actually Zaboutine's modelling one of their pieces now. It's just a plain black t-shirt, because if you don't know, that's actually another thing maybe people don't know about Into the Aim. I've always shown all the print t-shirts with cool, there's loads of those, but there are a bazillion options of those types of, but they also do plain ones that are just nice quality and have like different plain colours if you just want to do something like smart casual look at your work. And that even ties into the way you can save money, because if you buy 3 graphic tees, like the one I have with like the Neo Tokyo or like a pastoral design, you get 3 of those for $61.95, and you get 3 black tees, basic tees, sorry, just any colour, could be black, whatever, for $52.95. And if you use our code, that whatever saving for that bundle I just said also then gets the code applied to it, which in this case is intotheam.com/LFN. And at the moment they have a site-wide sale. Some items are up to 60% off from the 25th of March to the 31st. And that's in addition to, with using that code, the 10% you get as well. So the 10% applies to both the 60% off sale and any of those bundles. You just get an extra 10% off using intotheam.com/LFN. Thanks to Into the Aim. They have some great stuff. I've worn loads of their t-shirts, loads. In fact, I'll even say, even if they stop sponsoring me, that is actually the stuff where if I'm having my chill time, that's the stuff I like to change into to just relax and feel comfortable. Okay, so we're going to start this episode. If you know, we start with the hottest take. And in this case, you, the fans at home, have delivered the hottest take. So if you would like to submit a potentially unhinged take, then submit via the following method. You subscribe to Last Week Nation Discord. There's a channel in there. It's called like LOL Hot Takes. Put it in there. Also, one detail, since this take didn't do it, I will say on the CS channel, I often actually encourage people, so I'd say it here, don't just put a take like a sentence. Give a few, imagine you were on the show, give a few reasons and like give some sort of like background as to why you say it, because this take is just a sentence. And in some ways, that probably makes it better, because we're going to have to speculate what this guy means. But let's just go with it. Right, I'll just tell you, gentlemen, this take is by Tallahassee Riot Supervisor, and it is a classic EU hater take. Because listen to this take. It says, if SK Gaming was in the LCS, they'd be top 4 in the league. Oh. Okay. Is that spicy? Is that spicy enough? Remember, people thought they were irrelevant in Europe, their failed project, Mickey X's vanity project with his mates, leader, all that. Where are we going, Zaboutine? Where are we going? You feel, is this a hot take to you? Do you like it? Do you agree with it?
I feel like it's kind of hot, but I would say SK with a better mid would actually probably be top 4 in the LCS. I can't really wrap my head around leader being, I don't say leader or leader, I never know. Leader is kind of he's kind of like, he was outdated at his prime, and he's just even more outdated. And I don't see him play mages, hasn't improved on that. Really doesn't carry the way he used to, even on Akali, Sylas. It's just a straight deficit for his team. And even though like I don't think your average mid laner in the LCS is great, right? Like I don't think Saint is insane. I don't think any mid laner in LCS is not great, but I think they will be miles ahead of leader, like miles ahead. And for this reason, I've never seen a team being top 4 with a shitty mid laner, and his plays are way shittier than anyone in NA. Like I don't think he deserves to play in a major league with what is shown so far. Aside from that, I would see them like, you put any decent mid laner, like decent, I think they straight make top 4. Like there is no competition in this part of the world, like zero competition at this point. Like you look at the way C9 plays, and I'm not even sure they could make playoff if they play like this in LEC.
He's done it again, Keire. It's the way he like answered it and then backed into like, actually he's doing an even hotter take of Cloud9 wouldn't even be in playoffs. Remember, playoffs was only like top 8 or something ridiculous. Like, okay, fair enough.
Are they beating Los Ratones though? Are they doing that? Like,
Okay, now he's doubling down. Okay,
everybody
now
lost
would
to
Cloud9
Arsenal.
even beat Los Ratones? Is that the thing?
Yeah.
Okay, he's done it again,
That's
and he's
my
too
take.
good. The thing is, it's not even. It's a superpower, but it's like a latent. It's an aura effect, isn't it? He doesn't even do it intentionally. He didn't even activate
Yeah,
it.
it's
I
a
know.
dot.
Okay, fair
Right.
enough.
It's a damage over time.
Yeah, exactly. What? Okay. So I've now got two ideas to juggle in my head,
Okay.
both simultaneously fucking mental orbiting. See, the thing is like the SK Gaming take is a bit of a weird one because basically you're giving yourself a bit of bandwidth. Are they better than like Sentinels and Team Liquid? That's basically what you're
Yes.
asking, right?
Yes.
I think they are. Like, here's
they
the
are.
problem. The data that we have, right, for LEC is BO1s. And BO1s are the worst data set in all of
Sure.
League of Legends because they told us that G2 is 7th. Brilliant.
Yeah, true. True.
Amazing data set that is. So, like,
Yeah.
G2 was barely better than SK Gaming. They were, what, like 2 or 3 wins better than SK Gaming. Fucking how insightful. And then some of those games, like SK Gaming's got like a game where they played Tarek and they threw like 12k gold lead or
Yep.
something like that. They had like big throws.
Yes.
The types of throws that you would think that you would iron them out if you had like more stage games, and or it's like that steel sharpens steel in the sense of like you have to be in the pressure situations to learn. Scrims aren't a pressure situation, you know what I mean? You can throw the 12,000 gold lead, and it's not as hard as a lesson learned. So it is a little bit harsh in that sense. I think SK Gaming probably would place above them, but I think Lions and C9 would probably be a step too far. They're probably slightly too flawed for those teams. But one thing that I would say, and I think certain players like Mickey X, Skeens, and Wonder, I think would do a lot better than what people have because their deficiencies kind of get punished by how like sharp like EU is, and also like how often EU teams have gotten to play against these players. Wonder is actually quite like a tricksy player, and you see this when he sometimes goes like internationally, where like he'll kind of get like disrespected, and the enemy team will see his like weak side, and they'll overdive him or they'll overplay into his situation, and he'll outplay like a massive like dive. And I think unless you've played against someone like Wonder like quite consistently or not, you would be like quite disrespectful of his playstyle. It's like a whole thing of I know this is an extreme, but it's like you don't really know what laning against Ben's like until you've actually laned against them. There's like a certain degree of that to playing against like Mickey X. Like Mickey X is like all fine and dandy, he's playing like the Rakans and Nautilus, and next thing you know there's a Poppy in your game, you know? So I think I actually think it's like quite a somewhat conservative take. I do like it for shitting on NA, because what NA's been doing, let me just get back on my fucking EU high horse. I used to be an NA guy, like saying the TSM teams or the TL teams are way better than folk give credit for. Don't be fucking claiming Lions, right, okay, when the only reason that it's any good is Inspired. If I take Inspired out of that team, right, who is European, that team's doing fuck all, right? And if you go look at, like, C9's like those old TL teams where you can barely even call them NA at this point. There's just so many fucking other human beings on it, so... Like, put it this way, like, it'd be the best team with the most, like, EU people on it, but I'm not too sure.
Here's why it's a good hot take, because obviously the spiciest part is he's basically picked of all the teams that did, look, the other angle he could have gone with was Los Ratones, but maybe he's a Los Ratones hater, who knows. Essentially, it'd have to be Los Ratones or SK of the teams that didn't make playoffs if you were going to pick them to do this take, because the other ones, like, I'm sorry, like fucking Karmine Corp Blue wouldn't do it. They did nothing here, they would do nothing in LCS either. That wouldn't even matter. Because remember, I always point this out to people. You can always tell the people who are frauds and didn't actually watch the RL. That isn't the Karmine Corp Blue that won fucking MEA, you idiots. Like, that was a totally different squad where a bunch of those players just stayed down in the RLs after that. That was like a weird squad they just put together just for the LEC versus tournament, almost just like, fuck it, just enter it. And I don't think even they thought it was good. So if we stick with just his version, which is the exact 5-man lineup that played here as SK, and with you, Keire, if you actually look at some of their games, people actually probably don't remember this. They had a couple of games they actually did just throw. Like, they genuinely could have like been one of the bottom playoff teams and snuck in, which actually, look, now it's all fine because I think everyone feels like Mickey X got out of his system and all that jazz. He would have actually had like the last laugh on people if they'd have won some of those games. I mean, there's actually a world, if you see where things did finish up, where he could have finished above G2 as a result. So I know what you mean. So I'd put it this way, I would say they would have a chance to do it. It would certainly be fun, by the way. That would be a hilarious sort of experiment to run, is put this squad in that first LCS season and run it back. Because actually, when I'm thinking of some of the players, I am with you on the leader one. That one's a bit hard, because I actually think mid lane's one of the best positions in NA, actually. Even though they don't have massive name players, they have a lot of fucking good Koreans, though. Like, people who probably just have really good hands and could probably play all the basic mages like every Korean player seems to be able to do. So the leader one would be tougher, but I think the two positions that I don't give a fuck what LCS fans think. I'm sorry, listen, Wonder would run your fucking league. What are you talking about? Like, the Thanatos guy already looked like the MVP. Like, and all he was doing was laning. Like, people forget this. Top lane is the best role in Europe, in my opinion. Top lane and ADC probably are the two most stacked roles, where like there's just good players.
Jungle as well.
Jungle's pretty good too, but I think top lane, actually, people underestimate how many good top laners we have now. I mean, obviously we even had them just join the league, like fucking Tracer and people like that, Mainter. Like, these guys will look pretty good. So if you go look in NA, top lane is a fucking tired role, mate. There's people there that are just like, I mean, the joke is Dorkle wasn't even supposed to be in the league. He came back in and won the fucking league. Like, what? Like, that's supposed to be like, you know, your fourth best player if you're having a good league. So I think, and by the way, everyone did love to laugh at Mickey X in SK. Bro, first of all, Mickey X in NA, where people still barely know how vision control, he would be like the MVP of the league. You'd be like, Core JJ came.
Sure.
And then I also was thinking on your one, Zaboutine, if you make it just slightly more like reasonable a take, like we can replace the mid. Look, I'm not going to get silly. I don't get to take like caps. But pretty sure, I was even just thinking of other players people don't rate. Give me like Seren from Heretics and this team would do this thing. And I'll tell you another reason why. Because actually, one thing I feel really bad for Mickey X with, if you watched SK in that split, was, bro, he really did try his hardest to help leader. Like, he camped that fucking mid lane so hard. Like, that was like some duo kill shit where you just like the support of the jungle are the ones getting filled, and then you just fucking try and like get your mid laner ahead so your mate so you can carry the game. He was doing that like every game. So it's actually also why, even though I've always thought leader was skilled, I was underwhelmed by him in that split. Because I thought, you had the best possible chance, and you had Wonder just playing topside to get gang, basically like fucking being a gangster every fucking game, it felt like. So you had all your chances if you were leading. I think it's a pretty good spicy hot take. The joke is, though, as usual, Zaboutine actually backed into two spicier takes. One was the Cloud9 wouldn't even be in playoffs. Listen, that might even be too spicy for me. That
it would be hard for them to qualify. I mean, can I elaborate a little bit on this?
Yeah.
Like, because I feel like we have a pretty skewed appreciation of the average jungle support level in Europe. So your jungle support in Cloud9 is Blabber and Vulcan, and I think they are a strength in NA, but they will be a letdown in Europe, just because I think the average jungle support in our region is way better. So you have to play against Buzio and Yak. You have to play against Paris and
especially
Rinesh,
the junglers.
Very good. I think
like, bro, I'll tell you the obvious analogy. I actually gave this on so many insights, so it's a good point to say. I often say, right, think about how hard we flame Razork now in Europe. Bro, I think Razork's better than Blabber. He's like the same player, but better, isn't he?
Better. Better. And you have Elioya Alvaro, Isma and June, and Isma has improved like drastically.
Sure.
So Shio, I don't know, because they're changing stand for Wei. You have SkewMond and Labrov, which, I mean, match Gen.G's. So Razork and Lospa is probably one of the letdown. And even Linsas and Fleshy is not easy to play against. I think these players, like most of these junglers, will outclass Blabber, because what made Blabber himself, right? Like what cemented his name was his ability to skirmish in early game around the river and the neutral objectives. And know that like the rest of NA has caught up on him. He's kind of became an inter because he has refused to adapt his game because everybody's more mechanical than him now. And I think you put him against someone like SkewMond, he would be among the low average of NA junglers, of EU junglers. And supports, don't get me started. There is no supports in NA. Like the simple fact that Isle is representing NA is like, I don't hate on the guy, because you clearly see that he's really trying to make these plays, but his read of the game is so outdated. Where he is on the map, what he does, the way he uses his spells, he has no understanding of what's going on, and he's just waiting for an Odin to press hold his button and pray that Inspired carries the game. I feel like a player such as Isle would be he would not be qualified. No team would pick him in LEC. So when I see the NA champion being in that state, and I watch the matches from Cloud9 and I see all their like weaknesses and the fact that they don't click as a team. I mean, you clearly see the trajectory of Jojo Pune, right? Like it's easy. He left, and now he's one of the best mid laners in EU, among the best players. I don't think any player in C9 aside from Thanatos will actually be a hot commodity on the EU market.
Yeah, fair.
That's mine.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. The thing is like I'm doing that like transactive property of like because once you make like a 13-team league, like it's like take Carmine Corp Blue out and put C9 in there. Like how do like the match up? Like it depends on when they play like Los Ratones because it's all BO1s and you can never trust Fnatic to do anything sometimes. So like it does get like a bit sketchy, but like I'm thinking about. I'm looking at them and I'm like, okay, who are they favoured against? And it is like 70, like 30. So it's like a non-zero chance they don't make it. Like they could easily be in that 5 and 6 group and then not make the tiebreaker. You know what I mean? Like that I think that's a very, very, very like easy thing to happen.
Are they better than Shifters, for instance?
They're like
lane per lane, you have Rooster versus Thanatos. Mid lane, you have Nuke versus what's his name? APA, right?
Yeah. Nuke could smash him, by the way. Come on.
Right.
By the way, Nuke could be like the MVP of LCS. I'm not even joking if he joined.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not even trolling. People think I don't like him. He would be the MVP of the LCS, I'll tell you.
Pretty good. That type of league was so
we all agree
slow.
NA shit.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, especially because everyone's going to forget this now. I actually agree with Keire. People have taken the mistake of seeing how good Inspired is now he carries Lion, and they're acting like it's the old FlyQuest. FlyQuest had some pretty good players in the other roles. Like, if anything, the reason why this take's actually not even as spicy, except for the SK part, is because LCS, the whole split, we were like, it's a one-team region. That one team wasn't Lion, it was fucking Cloud9. And in the end, they not even shit the bed. Then they went to the America's Cup and fucking shit the bed there too.
Yeah,
like, give me a break. Yeah, remember, Cloud9 was dealing with everyone mate, until they got to that Lion team. And then even America's Cup, the Brazilians were torturing them.
Yeah, like that tournament done them no favours.
Nah.
5-0 versus like Furia, where you get to play them in the upper bracket, get all the data on them, right? Meet them from the lower bracket, right? So you also get to see them play against a blank opponent, like in Sentinels. You know what I mean? So you get to see all of that, and then on the day with like the double prep, you can't get like a single game off of them. It's like, you know what I mean? I know Dom tweeted out like the coach's tweet, it's my fault, I done shit on the prep and stuff like that, whatever, but like, you know what I mean? Like even your individual, it's like, what would they call it? As Ellis used to say, like your raw muscles, you know what I mean? You couldn't even out-muscle them on the day. Like, come on to fuck. If you, like, you couldn't even get a strategic win, and you couldn't even get like just a lane and like snowball win. And that's not a good sign. That ain't good.
All right, I've got a take for you boys. I can't even fully tell if like the haters will just be like, yeah, I agree, or if actually people will appreciate this as a hot take. So my hot take is based on first stand, which is this. If you're an EU fan, cover your ears. I actually think that Gen.G's loss to G2, especially because they got swept, is one of the most inexcusable losses in the history of League of Legends. Here is why. Right, first of all, if you saw the way that they drafted, I don't know what the fuck. I'm not even normally a draft guy, but like I'm telling you, I refuse to believe they would ever do those drafts in like an LCK match and an MSI match. Like normally this team's pretty good at drafting actually because they've got such fabulous players with deep champion pools. So first of all, I do think they were sort of just like shook. And even though G2, particularly SkewMond, played great, I also do think Gen.G also came down to their level and met them as it were, you know. And so similarly, if you watch them regular season, it's not a joke. They are like the best regular season team I've ever seen play League of Legends. They've just solved League of Legends when there's no super pressure. There's just the pressure of LCK playoffs. They can't be beaten, mate. They just have it all. They can play all styles of League of Legends. They can play through like most of the lanes in the game. Like I say, they probably have the greatest collective champion pool ever in the history of League of Legends. It's unbelievable the shit they can pick. I mean, the joke is in their team. This could even be a mini hot take on the side. I low-key think Canyon is carried in their team, mate. Like this isn't damn one Canyon, mate. He gets to just chill, and he has so many insane players in his solo lanes and elsewhere. Even his supports constantly like an MVP candidate player in all the matches. He actually even just gets to do that thing where it's like no one's noticed he's not that good anymore because he's like he doesn't have to have jungle priority. Like he doesn't need like the pick. He can just get any pick at the end of the draft because all your bans are going towards Chovy and fucking Keane and Ruler. And like you're just spending them all elsewhere. He's in the fucking hot seat. That's like kind of the cool place to be though. And then also the reason why is think of the context right now and historically. So remember historically this is one of the craziest super teams ever, Gen.G. Like you look at their squad, 4 of them unironically historically would be like Hall of Fame players and like contenders for the best ever in their role. Then look at the 5th player, Duro. He's been awesome most of the time since he came there. Like one day he might be up there with Keire and all the greats and support. So then add in right now, forget the historical part. Right now, Chovy is supposed to be the best player in the world. Keen's supposed to be the best top player. Fucking Duro probably is supposed to be the best support, believe it or not. It's between him and like fucking on. Like Keire had some dodgy moments. So I actually think in all contexts, even though people are going to think I'm hating because this is like the triumph of EU, like the joke is on the other side. You could argue this is actually the best result G2's ever done. Any EU team, there's actually a pretty epic up. I actually think from the Gen.G side, I think it's the most inexcusable loss ever. And then lastly, I'll circle back to the beginning. Also because he never made it that great a game. It was just a 3-0 like spanking and he got the fuck out the server. At least in the back, like when people remember G2 2019 beating like SKT and stuff, those were close games, mate. They were in those games. And MSI was a 5-gamer. Even the one at Worlds was the one where, remember, they were trading the towers every single time across map and so that wasn't like they just smashed him. In this one, for real, they actually just destroyed Gen.G. I thought it was embarrassing. So what do you think? Have I gone too far? Is it the most inexcusable loss ever in League of Legends history is my take?
I've got a weird thing about Gen.G, okay? Gen.G,
I'll tell you one last line. I forgot to drop the last line. The last line was this. Bro, Carmine Corp gave them a better game than Gen.G did.
Well, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's the punchline. Go on then, Keire.
But mate, it's like that Lavrov tweet, so fucking funny. With the thingy was hard. Lost Tones was harder than Gen.G, which was just fucking what a banter thing to tweet or to be able to tweet. It is just pure banter. But anyway, here's the thing about Gen.G. It's hardly scientific, right? For a team that is as consistent about them, they have like a mental like brain warpingly like stupid series every like period of time. And until I've actually started looking at it. So in 2024, they were like the most dominant team. They went to MSI. Remember the way they smashed MSI? Like, Chovy is so OP at like MSI. He like forces the Aurelion Sol Corky patch with Tristana. He actually like gets 3 champions nerfed in one patch. Then they go to EWC and what happens? I'm pretty sure they got 3-0'd by TES. Was it 3-0'd? Yeah, they got 3-0'd by TES. In the first round. It just got banged off home. And they were all like terrible, right? And then obviously like they then go back, they have the really close series against HLE. What else happens? Reset the year. First stand, obviously they have the really close series up against HLE. HLE is the best team in the world for first stand, that period of time, you know what I mean? Akan. Remember, Nongshim, they go to 5 games against Nongshim randomly. Just for like no reason at all. And if you go watch the series, it's terrible. Then you go to the next again series. They're the most dominant team again, 18-0. They go to play HLE. They have to reverse sweep HLE, where they're like all in, Canyons throwing game after game after game. They manage to get it over the line just, and then you actually see the next again day, HLE gets like 3-0 by like T1. Then you go to Summer, they 18-0 again, and then what happens? They lose to KT in the upper bracket. Yeah. So these random they are dominant. See if you take their numbers or statistical things, and I'm not saying they aren't, but there's something about them where it's like every wee period of time, there's a BO5 where their brain just goes, and sometimes they're so fantastic, they can get it over the line, right? But other times, it does actually turn into the mayor of mayors. You go watch that HLE series, they could have been 3-0'd. It literally takes Chovy, I think he's playing like TF or something. He has like the TF game of like the ages, where it's like he picks like a stun card 4 times and stuns like 4 different members. It's like the most bonkers like reversal game you've ever seen. And that was like prime Apex Chovy. And know what? You don't have prime Apex Chovy, you have a bit of a dodgy Canyon, and then you have shitty drafts. Yeah, well, the fucking brain fart came along, and I actually do consider it is one of the most disgraceful upset, because here's the thing in like the context. The other one would be, and the other candidate will always be the IG were the reigning world champions and they lost to TL.
Yeah.
Right? And then the other one is the fucking, I think, is the EDG in 2014. The problem is those two ones are contextual. If you kind of know what was going on in the teams and stuff, it makes a lot more sense.
It's a lot easier for IG to blow up than Gen.G, isn't it? Come on.
Exactly. Like, okay, you're telling me fucking what's his name? Jackie Love and I'm gonna say Yanja, but it's not. What's his fucking name? The guy that's like invited onto all the teams. And I forgot the support's name. But they guys get banged by Core JJ. Balan, yeah. You tell me they guys get banged by Double F Core JJ. I can believe that. Jensen has like a good series. Impact. Weak side King neutralizes the Shy a couple of games. I can believe that. Keen playing Vayne. He's played it 6 times before ever, and he's standing next to Walls versus Casante. Yeah, like
He thought he was serious or something. What are you doing, bro? You ain't that guy. What are you doing?
Yeah, bro,
The draft was criminal, wasn't it? I know.
And here's the thing.
not.
Obviously, now that it's happened, right? It is, but first of it, fundamentally, it was one of the most frustrating games to watch in the sense of like, you're happy for G2 because they're taking advantage of the thing. But it's like you're saying, they didn't really play against Gen.G. They played against a fucking, what are they things called? They played against a fucking like charade Gen.G. They played against a fucking
tribute band.
Yeah, exactly, a tribute band. There was some fucking shitty version of Gen.G where it was like the choke, like he didn't actually choke, but like choke was actually at the keyboard and fucking. It was really bad, mate. So I don't know what fucking causes that. They need like a fucking mental health
I have an explanation.
guy. Go on.
I have at least, I don't know, like former coach here, kind of an explanation, or at least what I grasp is you have the same phenomenon with 2020 C9 that didn't make it to Worlds after like dominating the league nationally, like it was impossible to beat them. I think there is a certain balance of win-loss that's healthy for a team. And the problem is performance is very hard to predict and execute when the situation in which you're in is very abnormal, right? And then you look at the distribution of wins and losses for Gen.G, and you look like losing a game to G2 is like almost a black swan for them. This is the fall of an asteroid on their process, right? Like most of the good sportsmen in history have had losses, because overcoming losses is part of becoming a champion. And I do think that the coaching staff of Gen.G, which, I mean, Ryu is probably a little less experienced than some other staffs, right, in Korea, they have probably got the real surprise of having your players tilted because they lost to a small team and they forgot how to deal with that. And so the train goes full speed and then, like derails a little bit and then it goes into, like, it's just a massive crash. That's how I felt about it. And it's strictly because I think they haven't lost enough to actually consider it part of their process anymore. And once you are outside of your prep, everybody's going to try to compensate. And this is where you see the Vayne top, because someone's not playing well on the bot side. You start asking for more agency. You start going for more gamble play. You stretch your backs. You disrespect some options. You're going to gamble on the fact that your opponents aren't great and your opponents take confidence in their play. And then suddenly, right, the train that was on the rail just goes into like the wall. And I do think, for instance, like you look at Michael Jordan, Roger Federer, Tiger Woods, like all these champions, they have had like a certain amount of losses, even within their season, within their prep.
Sure. And
usually they peak at the right moment. I do think Gen.G is the exact example of do not win too much on League of Legends, because you need to be able to reset mentally and just take wins and losses the same way. And I think Gen.G has these moments where they just freak out about one loss. Everybody goes into panic mode. And these are the series that Keire was mentioning. And they can't revert. Like, they have to get eliminated, do the talk that any team does on a one loss, but they do it after getting 3-0 or 3-1 by a shitter team in comparison to their standard. And then they come back and they're back to like their normal. And then they keep winning and winning until the point they forget about losing again. And then this happens. And I think this is the cycle. This is a very weird cycle where they are victim of their domination. But I would say this is inexcusable for the coach. I would just modify your take, and saying, as much as I have plenty of respect for you as a player, I don't know him as a coach, but I think that's your job to plan for that. How come G2 can reset their players in 2 days, and then the staff of Gen.G that has probably twice the budget and the best player in history at each position is unable to go back and tell guys, it's fine, we're just gonna draft a front to back with scaling.
Yes.
We're not gonna do anything fancy. Like, Keen asks for a Vayne, and you're like, not. You don't say like, sure, take Vayne. You're like, no, pick Gwen. Shut up. And that works. And then he just smashes BB with Gwen, and then they have a win, and then they just get back to it. So I do think there is a huge, like, imagine if we had this team, and for instance, Giotto or Dylan Falco has this result. Does he stay?
No, he'd be fired probably, wouldn't he? Yeah.
No, he's fired.
Yeah.
And I don't advocate for firing, because I think coaching is a long-term project. But I think the biggest responsibility falls back on the staff there to not being able to reset their players.
just a wee point of notice here. Do you know something about, and this is a good point, Zaboutine here, just as a point that like pissed
No,
me
your
off,
volume's
right?
gone down again.
Oh, sorry, fuck.
Yeah,
right.
all good.
Do you know Keane had the same amount of games at Kalista top as Vayne top before he played that against G2?
Yeah,
just to fucking put that into perspective, right?
Okay.
Just so, like, he had the same number of games as like Kale top, right? This is Keane we're talking about. Like, by the way, I would have actually been fucking more excited for him to roll back the years and bring out the Victor top than see that fucking Vayne ever again. That's like that one where your star player says that to you and you hit them the side of the head with the thing like that, with take the headset off their head. Like, that's the fucking worst call ever in the history ever. And also, and you're talking about it being like disgraceful, like here, Thorin, right? This was actually so close to me. Ruler and Canyon more so, but Ruler is someone who really like rests on his laurels. He's got like, because he had all those years with like Gen.G, then Gen.G and all the Domestic Express, people attribute things to his play that I don't actually think are true. Like, I think Ruler is like a good laner in the same way as like, reckless is the wrong term, but like I'm trying to think of like a very controlled like bot lane person. He isn't a great laner the same way like Uzi's a great laner, or like Forgiven's a great laner, or Doublelift even was like a great laner, or yeah, exactly, Viper. It's a completely
Viper's
different like.
laner.
It's like a completely different thing. Like, Ruler's your guy that gives you loads of 8 out of 10s, and then sometimes he'll give you, like, on the kill bot lane, he'll give you, like, a 9 out of 10 and all that. But he's never like that guy you're being like, okay, we're going to play, or Elk on back in the day when they would play Kalista plus X every single game. Like, he just was never that guy, and I think he gets to be that person, even though he never is. You know what I mean? You're never actually seeing like the thing of like, I even think Hans Sama's got more of that in him with like the Dravens and the stuff with Mickey X back in the day. And I think they're more like, we use our team and our jungler the best rather than like, oh, the CS number is the biggest delta. Because obviously he's so mechanically sick. You can see it. But
no, I know what
yeah,
you mean. Put it this way,
really...
it's actually a massive problem we have in League of Legends, but sports in general. Maybe it's a young person's thing. If you're considered the best, and a lot of people now would say he's the GOAT ADC, the actual assumption is you're the best at everything. Like, I always make this joke about basketball takes that I've now seen, even though I think Michael Jordan's the best player ever, I've seen so many people talk like he was actually God who walked on earth, that my joke would be, if you told them Wilt Chamberlain was taller than him, they'd be like, it's wrong, he was taller. It's like, well, no, Wilt Chamberlain was literally taller than him. Like, just, he was playing a different position. But their logic would be, if they think anything's positive, you must be the best. So if you're the best ADC, you must be the best laner, which, by the way, I don't even get, because actually, just like top lane, I think ADC has a very distinct difference between the team fight gods and the lane gods. Like, there's not that many that have it all, actually. So no, I'm with you. He was more the team fight god to me than he was the king laner. Like, I'm sure people like UZI and Deft to eat this guy's lunch in their prime and fucking lane. Also, on the point you said there, Zaboutine, it's actually a very subtle point, but I know what you mean, because I'll tell you where this problem actually happens in Counter-Strike is actually when people's map pool gets too good. When you look at your map pool, and even in competition, you have like 70% win rate on most of the maps, it actually makes it harder for you to streamline your process and actually decide which is your best map or which should I pick against this team, for example. And so you'll end up in silly scenarios where you could have just picked a map that you almost certainly would win, but you try to do like a punish pick because you think, but I'm pretty good on this and they're weak on it. And I'll give you the example in League in Gen.G. What I said earlier is also what I think fucks them. It's that because they don't just have one style, which even some of the great SKT teams did, because in theory they have we can play all the styles. It doesn't mean you should though. Like, I think Dom made this point brilliantly at last year's MSI. He made the point that if you ever watched that, I think it was the upper bracket one, where they played the Game 5 against T1. In Game 5, it's like they remembered, wait, we don't have to do all this shit where we just team fight like they want to. Why don't we just play the slow Gen.G style and pick where all the fights? And the second they realised that, they dominated the game, mate. They had complete control. But it's like, because they could still have won with the team fight too, they just opted into it. Because I know what you mean. It's actually quite hard when someone, because essentially what we're saying here is what you said there, Zaboutine. They won't realise how silly their choice was until afterwards. Because they'll have still thought, I can make this work. By the way, I'll bet in scrims this probably did work. We've seen him in LCK win every type of game. So they probably do just think we can do basically whatever we feel like now and it'll work. Whereas I know what you mean. You've got to have the fallback position of like, what actually are you the strongest at though? And we'll just cynically win your game.
Basics.
Yeah, it's grind it out, mate.
Everything
you don't have...
becomes a basic because everything is winning. So what's our basics? Anything? Just pick me Vayne top and then you derail.
Yes.
Do you want a nice take?
On.
I think that's okay. So you have seen this rumor of Riot Europe not extending their lease with the studio and the LEC being played online.
Yes.
My take is,
you think it's good?
Everybody should move to Korea, and we should have one league in Korea where everybody plays. So this fixes server discrepancy.
Basically,
fixes-
Monty's take. Monty thought that League needs a Super League, essentially. Even though, by the way, because he's Monty, he made this take at exactly the time, Zaboutine, that the Super League was being promoted in football, which everyone universally hated. So, unfortunately, it made everyone not listen to him. But this was actually Monty's take, is that you should just have basically a Super League, because his joke was not only would it be popular, but as I'm sure you're going to talk about now, if you were like the LCS and the LEC top teams who went there, you'd also get way better. Like, you'd be really good at the game then.
I mean, for me, for instance, everybody knows, right, at least behind the stage, that the Overwatch esports was a very healthy esports when it was the Apex tournament, and all the Overwatch team in the world would just go to Korea, and the best Western teams could compete with Korean teams, and just they were just Korean teams were dominating, but there were a lot of like upsets and stuff. So it was exciting. It's like, how far can we go if we train like them and be around them? I think the problem we have right now in League of Legends is there is a concentration of talent, and there is not as much renewal of talents to really expect or have hopes of major upsets, right? Like even with the Gen.G upset, like a Western team beating back-to-back two LCK team and then beating an LPL team in the final is absolutely impossible, right? Like statistically speaking, we are really hoping for a unicorn to appear when it comes to Western League of Legends. But on the other hand, we have seen that we have plenty of talent that's scattered around. I do believe that if G2 was training all the year on Korean server, and they were screaming against Chinese and Korean teams, and they were competing every week, the gap will actually close, and League of Legends would become more exciting for everyone, while actually reducing the costs of just production and stuff like this for the league. I feel like it would be just an overall better product while saving a bunch of money for Riot Games. And then what they could do is what they're currently doing, which is you just own your Super League in Korea, and you have Korean prices, Korean taxes and stuff like this. And then you outsource anything you don't want to happen in Korea. And then you select your top 10 teams into a tournament at the end of the year. You just run Worlds anywhere because you want to meet communities of the different teams that you have within your league. And then you solve your problem. You still have a leading esports. You don't have to manage 20 leagues. You save millions of dollars. Everybody's watching the highest level of the game. And the competition is actually fair. And for instance, I think that if SkewMond was living in Korea, he would learn Korean. And I don't question the fact that he will end up being drafted by like a T1 or a Gen.G. Like if he was speaking Korean, this guy has the level to play there. And I think it's extremely it's gonna be extremely hard for the people, right? The viewers are gonna be like, nah, bro, it's so much better to have LEC during the weekend and see SK Gaming play against shifters. It's so much better. But I do believe that people don't know what they want, and what they want is actually everybody going to Korea, including Riot Games. That's my hot take.
No, like here's the thing, right? Well, by the way, just like to clarify one thing, Zaboutine, would you have everyone playing in like the same league, or would you just have like a European league hosted in Korea?
I do believe we should have one league, but then the format with groups of level and things like this will have to emerge, right? Like because that's always the same thing. The challenge of a league that needs to be watched to work needs to get rid of the shitty teams, right? Like the mission of a format is to kick the shitty teams in a fair manner as fast as possible and have an extended amount of exciting match for the fans to watch.
You know,
for that, I think there is plenty of solutions, and we would be. But I would love to see a league where, for instance, you take the top 3 teams of every region, and then they play in the League A, and then you have the League B that nobody watches, but you have like, you know, the SK Gaming and the Nongchim and all these things. But at least you would have like the top level would be actually a good esport, because I think that although people say they are not tired of watching League of Legends, even Firsten had only one good series, which is BLG versus G2, and the rest was kind of shitty. I do believe like we need to fix that, otherwise the esports gonna die, and it costs way too much money to sustain an ecosystem, a local ecosystem, for what it yields eventually in terms of viewership.
So, here's the thing. Not even on the hot take, just because it's a lot of stuff. Like, it's hard because like it's a lot of business stuff for like me to commentate on. But my suspicion would basically kind of be that like if you actually look at the direction of European League of Legends, I think this is actually going to happen. Like the teams are eventually going to move out of Berlin, and I think with like the economics of it, it might actually just the teams might end up in just being in like one of those like Middle Eastern cities that like the Dota teams of it basically ended up in, where like the teams basically actually get paid to like be in those like cities, and then because it's like it's a bit like Seoul, you have like insane like ping and stuff like that, and like the practice is good because like you're all there like together, and if you need to go to events you just like fly to them as like etc. Like I could see that happening with EU. Like the thing is, Zaboutine, what you're like selling to me as like a hardcore fan is like what I would want, and it's like basically I literally just want like the thing that lets me see the best teams play all the time. If it's like a league where everyone's in Seoul and you have like two with one relegating into the other and the other promoting into the next, and like the feeder leagues promoting into League 2, if that's what it is, that's what I want to watch. If it's an open circuit where we go around the world like in CS to all these different events and your teams are invited based on points, and we maybe have one league every year and you choose what season you want to have it, so like China wouldn't have it early because they've got their new year, European, like if it's that's what I want to watch. I just want to watch that thing because for the past 10 years I've watched the fucking worst thing like of no happy medium between them all, and it's actually slowly killed League of Legends esports. I just don't think people realise, because there's been so many other phenoms and Black Swan events that have came along and extended the life of this game in loads of different ways, that like I think like people just don't really see it. And obviously, by the way, like one of the biggest metrics that like carries viewership is like how the game's perceived in China, and the game is like so big in China, right? Okay, that like it actually competes against like other like cultural phenoms, right? But I can even tell you, because like I'm somewhat ingratiated in like with the Chinese like being able to like read and like engage with like fans and stuff like that, right? It is beginning to taper off. Like that like sun is setting. Like it's still huge. It's like so big. It's like World of Warcraft back in the day that even when it's dying, it's so big that it just lasts forever. But like that is actually like beginning to like taper off for like lots of reasons. So you've got to kind of resource that as is, and you know, use the lifeblood of that. Because I think like with the BLG, the Gen.G, the T1, the G2, all the narratives that you have, you've easily got a game here for like another like 4 or 5 years. You know what I mean? But you've really got to like latch onto that and like try and preserve that. And I think you're never going to lose it.
By the way, one thing I think you actually touched on there, which is mad underrated, is the idea that like the game, the reason why the interest is dying out in LEC is actually just because LEC isn't interesting as a region or a format. Like I see all these people. This is why it's so whack to have been in esports for like 25 years professionally, and more than that. I had used to follow the game in the 90s. Because what happens is you see cycles of things happening that you just see repeat, but the other people never saw the whole cycle, so they think it's the first time it's happened. So I'll hear people, Zaboutine, talk wistfully about like they would talk about 2018 like it was the golden age, and they're going, and the league was so full of personalities and it was so hype, and I'm going, you mean back when like Schalke with like fucking Odoamne and Abedage would play against like Attila on fucking Vitality with like a scoffed roster? That was like a third place game, mate. Like you're making it sound like what they've done is take all the greatest players, Diamond Pro, they're making it sound like they were all existing. It was 1 year and it was the best shit ever. It lasted ages. Mate, that part had already gone at that point in time. The golden days were years before that, but that was before you guys started following. What you mean is when you began the game and there was novelty, you accidentally associated that with the player was more interested and the player was... By the way, the level of play was fucking dog shit in 2018. What are you even talking about? Like, that was appalling. That really was. Like, remember, it's not a joke. One of the reasons I got worse as an analyst on Summoning Insight is I'm not someone who's ever going to put 1 million hours into the draft and things like that. So as a result, I used to be able to get by for real as long as I know how good the individual players are. You can just guess based on the roster if the team's going to be any good. Like, genuinely, if I knew that your team has like Soaz, fucking, I don't know, Jankos and someone else, like, you're probably going to be at least top 3 in the league just from those players alone. In the modern day, as you see, like, there are way worse players, but the team works better and the way that people rotate around the map and the draft selections. So I already think, actually, people think, it's just boring now because Los Ratones isn't there. I even made the hot take in the past. I think Los tutorials would have gotten old after even like 3 splits, bro. Like, spoiler, they wouldn't have made a load of deep runs. They'd have even had a split eventually where they'd have had no excuses and they'd have just have been shit. I mean, you see right now, as people finally figured out, that team was a fucking powder keg the whole time. Anyone who complains about witchcraft scrims, you never watched those tutorial scrims, they were the same. They were mildly better because Keire was there and Baus was a troll. But aside from that, Whippo alone didn't make them this bad. They were already arguing like that. Then, actually, Zaboutine's point's a very key one, which is the thing of, like, people don't know what they want. Remember the legendary quote by Henry Ford, the guy who, like, mass-produced cars, was, if I'd have asked my customers what they'd wanted, they'd have said faster horses. That's one of the most genius quotes of all time. Well, I agree with you, Zaboutine. Even though, like I said, Monty picked the wrong time to say it. The saddest thing about Monty's Super League idea is it would be literally the most high-viewed competition in the history of League of Legends, and nothing would come close.
Of esports, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. Because think about, right, everyone, Keire will know this. When you had stuff like GSL and the odd foreigner would go there and try and make a run, bro, they didn't have to be good. It was incredible, the spectacle. People were staying up to like fucking like 8 in the morning to watch, or 2 in the morning if they were American, to watch these games because it was so hype. Like, what if they could? That's, by the way, when those team players were irrelevant and almost never made the run beyond the nano hours. You know, if you'd have actually had a G2, I can tell you the numbers would be fucking bonkers, mate. Like, you know, now a Gen.G versus T1's always the most high viewed match. Bro, if you'd have had like a G2 plays Gen.G in like the semis of LCK, it would break every record because you'd have all the Koreans, all the fucking, you'd probably even have Chinese viewers, mate.
The time zone is good because the only people who get affected are like American ones. And I think,
by the way, all you even have to
has a decent viewership. I do believe like this is the less important viewership. Even the consumer market in America is good, but we've already accepted that the sponsoring-based model for American consumer is not working on League of Legends. So getting rid of that or altering that is not bad anymore. Like if you did that in 2016, it would have been horrible because there was a market. But no, what's the value of NA market on League of Legends? Probably like, what, $10 million?
Also,
like what's the average sponsorship?
Right, two things. One, I even saw, I won't mention his name because I get so bored of this fucking guy being in my feed, so fuck it. That one guy who's the super fan of NA, who the scene is so decrepit and small and there's no journalists, he got to just be like the face of fucking LCS now. He's just a super fan on Twitter. He actually had the gall to complain on Twitter about the viewing time for NA. And his logic was, how are you going to promote the sport if it's bad hours? No, dumb fuck. We've done the opposite one. We've realised there is no viewership in NA, even when it was perfect time. So what we've done is maximise it for China, you dumb fuck. Like, no one gives a shit. NA hasn't earned itself the right to have viewership set to them. Meanwhile, as you're saying, Zaboutine, if people don't know, Korea is 7 hours ahead of Europe most of the time. That means all you would do is say to the LCK, if it's still called LCK, just do it 2 hours later, mate. If you just do it at like 7 p.m. your time, it'll be midday hours. That would be mad viewership. You'd get all the viewership in Europe, especially if it was on the weekend when people are at school. You'd literally have the biggest viewership ever. Then also, as you referenced with stuff like the Overwatch League, I can tell you when people are in close proximity like that, you just saw it with SkewMond. Bro, if you think of what SkewMond just did to Canyon now, when he doesn't get to practice in Korea, mate, you give that guy a couple of years in Korea, he could be like as good as any of the Koreans. Like, I'm talking about like the wonder kids here, not like the average player, obviously. The mega players, like people like Caps, what a career they would have maybe had if they'd have been in Korea. You'd get banged the first year, but then you might actually just become like the third best mid laner in the world. Like, it would be possible because you'd be scrimming against them all the time, and you'd have like their meta down. Also, as you say, by the way, a mad underrated detail's the ping. You just put that in as an aside. You literally get to practice on 5 ping instead of 30 to 50. If you don't know, guys, I've even heard this story. I have heard that Koreans complain when they go to NA that like solo queue's impossible because you can't even do like certain Yone moves, like all the shit you see Faker doing. You could never practice that. The ping's going to be 50 to the server. Where are you going to get off with that? So you'd also literally make all the players better. And then I've even got one final detail that's a banger. People haven't even thought of this part, which is, do you know what's actually hilarious? You don't even need LEC. Because you know what would happen the second that all the top teams go to Korea and everyone watches that? ERLs would just be the new LEC. Everyone would watch LFL in the Super League or whatever. It already has mad viewership anyway. It already has the next set of talents. Anyone not good enough to go to Korea could be in that league. You would actually already have the perfect replacement. We've already built those up. We've already got all the core streamers. I actually think low-key, even though this is a hot take and none of it will ever happen, we're just fucking pipe dreaming here. It actually is a good idea. Even though it's a hot take, it's actually also a really good idea. This would actually save League of Legends, in my opinion. Okay, right. Speaking of being right, whether anyone agrees with me or not, what about one of our other sponsors, Prize Picks? Because Prize Picks, it's good to be right. You can get paid for being right. If you don't know, it's really easy. If you just put $5 worth of lineups in, they will give you $50 worth of lineups using code HOTTAKE, LOL, all one word, at Prize Picks on the app. So obviously right now, basketball's all going. There's both like tournament basketball, the playoffs are coming up, everyone's hyped, that's the main sport. The beauty of Prize Picks is really easy. They just give you stats projections. All you pick on the stats projection, you pick the one you like, you just pick more or less. So they'll say in basketball something like, Steph Curry will make three-pointers in this game. If you look at the opponent, you look at his form, you think, I think he's going to hit more than that. You pick more. If you think, actually, it's a good defensive team, he's off his game, bit injured, maybe you pick less. You can also, if you're a fan of a player like Steph Curry, Wemby, Luka, you can just do stacks where you also pick them for like points, three-pointers, assists. Like I'm picking, or Jokic, some players who does triple-double threat. You can pick them for all of them if you think that player's mega will do it all. So it's easy to do. You just go download the Prize Picks app today and use code HOTTAKE, LOL, all one word, to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code HOTTAKE, LOL, to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. And if you're in America and you're wondering, can I play Prize Picks in my state? Probably, because it's like 50 of the states it's available. So just check online. Most likely you can. Okay, what is your take, Keire?
So, right. Zaboutine is not that hot, but I'll come in with another one at the back of it, right? So, I think, right, legitimately, not for his role, but SkewMond, right, is a top 5 player in the world right now.
Wait, not jungler, top 5 player.
Player,
okay,
yeah.
that's spicier than I thought. I thought you said jungler.
Yeah,
right? Okay, player.
No. So I think SkewMond is a top 5 player in the world before. And let me give you like some backup, right? Okay, on this, right? Okay, so if this isn't true, right, this would be the first time, right, an international like a BO5, a team like BO5, right? Okay, where a team basically has no top 5 or basically any top like 10 player in the world, right? Because if you think about it, last year, KC made the finals, but they didn't actually beat anybody really like that.
That was
they beat Oysters.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. They've just beaten the LCK 1 seed, 2 seed. So that you're talking about the teams you're talking about like G2, who had like Caps and Prime and Wonder, you know what I mean? What's his name? The GM over at Fly literally said Wonder was probably the best player in the world at one point. Pavis Smithy thought Wonder was like the best top player in the world. You know what I mean? So like, and here's the thing: if you actually take him matchup to matchup, right? Okay, like if you look at SkewMond hasn't even got the thing where it's like, oh, he was like a Western player and he was just all right, okay, and then he's went to this tournament and like he's like popped off slightly, like maybe like Jensen would maybe do, where he'd be a little bit quiet in the regular season, he'd have playoffs, maybe a not great or a okay final, and then he'd go to Worlds and he'd be unreal. No. SkewMond is literally candidate for the MVP of the LEC the entire time, is utterly dominant, right? Okay, dusted off everyone. His only bad like head-to-head games are like 3 games versus Yike. He has like 2 in the upper bracket and maybe 1 in the final. His other games are just absolute fucking map control domination, like boogaloos. He then goes to the international tournament. He is like great in all the series. The only one he isn't is where his laners are literally like Knight and Ben are laughing because they're playing against Caps and BB, solo killing them that much. No jungler's going to be able to do anything in that fucking environment, right? And when he's actually had like an even game, go watch the Aatrox game versus Jun, where he's tracked by the enemy jungler the entire game. Jun is all over his ass, accelerating bot lane, and SkewMond. Exactly. SkewMond comes out ahead.
That's crazy, yeah.
SkewMond somehow comes out ahead in that matchup. By the way, that is like some goat shit. Game 1 versus Knight, there is an 8-minute segment, and I was saying this, it might be the best 8-minute segment ever played by a Western player. Like, period, of any period of time. I'm not joking. He burns something like he burns 4 flashes, 2 other summoner spells, and kills 2 people before a dragon. It's like, that's like fucking Prime Cap, solo killing Faker, and like the mid lane matchup, Silas versus Akali, like back to back and stuff like that. The only difference is like, oh, he didn't do it just like against T1, he done it like loads of games against all the players, and even when things were going wrong in his team, he still looked like one of the best players there, right? Okay? The thing that's a little bit helping him is some players have like dropped down, but like if you go through the list, it's like entirely, so let's like put like, it's like maybe like Ben, you give Cho V's due,
yeah,
Knight, and let's just say Jun or Viper, however you want to dice it.
Okay.
And then it would be like SkewMond. I'd be hard pressed anyone else right now like cracks into it. Yeah, other people aren't here, but no way they're not fucking here because they didn't win their regions. So boo fucking who then? We do this all the year with all the other like great players. I actually think fucking SkewMond was fucking unbelievable. And as I've said a million times, I used to say this about fucking Razork and all that. If you take him off of this team and you put him on one of the Eastern teams, right? SkewMond could win Worlds this year easily. Like he could win everything this year. If he was on if he was playing for BLG, you'd be like, and he just had Jun's name play, they'd be like, he could Royal Road this year. He could Grand Slam in his like second split ever, and that'd be like one of the most fucking ridiculous narratives ever. Now, obviously, he can't do that. He's unbelievably dominant, but like this is going to be one of the best fucking forms of players ever. And I know I was tweeting about it. It's really, really impressive stuff.
The problem I have with this take is always whether or not you can account for a jungler being the best player in the world, because they always play off other players that need to do the hard work, which is laning, right? I would say very few players in my book have can reach that very specific, gray area where they outplay so hard in skirmishes and fights that you are like, this guy is good at League, no matter what he would do, right? I've made a hot take on Honor being second at every position in the LEC on this show, and I think SkewMond is this type of player that's like, he's freaking good at League of Legends. Like it's not about jungling. I think if you bend the rules of the game, he will always come ahead. I think right now this is peak for him, right? The meta is an Enchanter bot. Labrov comes, he plays his own game, and he has the most OP champion in history, like Pantheon, Xin Zhao. These are like at the all-time high of efficiency and in League of Legends. So it's very hard. But I would say I don't think there is a single jungler aside from Shun, but I think his laners are way better than the one from G2 that gets into the discussion of the best jungler in the world. I do believe that he's the best jungler in the world by quite an amount. I would say best player in the world. I would say top 5. I would agree with you, and I think that anyone who discredits SkewMond has to understand that if I pick Canyon and put him in G2, even speaking English, or if I take Shun or I don't know, like Tarzan, and I put him in G2, I don't think they would do better than SkewMond, because from the eye, if you look the eye tests, his positioning and his usage of spell, he's pristine. Like you can't, like it is most of the time it is the highest value. Like if you just freeze the game and you think about the game as if it's chessboard, and you try to look at the maximum value of using a spell in terms of like contesting space with your opponents, I do believe SkewMond is the best in the world currently at doing that, because he always survives with 1 HP. And when Faker did that for 5 years, everybody was like, oh, he's the best player in the world. And he keeps doing that as a jungler, and everybody's going to be like, oh, yeah, it's not as important. I haven't seen a jungler play as good as SkewMond. So I would say, I'm on your side. I would say he's top 5 in the world currently.
But it is, I like the arguments in this, and I generally agree overall, actually, more I think about it. But my problem is this, I'll just bring you up immediately. You did mention one name there that made me recoil, which is not Tarzan, bro. Listen, I think low-key Tarzan actually is just like the best all-around jungler I think I've ever seen in League of Legends. I think he's unbelievable.
I agree with you.
Maybe not on the right team to win everything, so he'll never get this credit. But the difference is, like, if you're with Jun, here's what Jun doesn't have. I actually agree. Jun wouldn't be as good. Here's the difference. You did a good comparison there, which is if SkewMond is comparable to Jun now, but Jun has way better solo laners, that actually means technically SkewMond's better. That's not a bad one. Like, listen, I think Jun might have better hands, but the difference is, this is also why SkewMond, I have to pat myself on the back. I called this unironically in I think I called it in the spring split of last year, like after he just played a rookie split. And I actually did a video, I think I did it in May or something last year. You can go look it up. It's called SkewMond is the next generational jungler, like from EU or something. And the reason why is, right, there's one area I do think I've got a pretty good read in esports, which is I have pretty good eye for like player performance performance and potential. Like, I'll give you an example to make my point. People might now go, like, you say everyone's good. I don't. I'm actually the opposite. I'm really critical of most players, and then I have a small few that I take and I praise them to the heavens because I think the potential is crazy. And so I'll give you my one failure ever, which is the one I actually completely fucked up, is I did think the first year he was in G2 that Targamas looked like he would be like a generational player because he did all that, like he was crazy roaming all the time. He had like, remember, he would be the one that would play like the fucking carry and then make like the fucking, he would play like the center when then make Flackhead be the support, etc. So I remember that was the only one I think I've ever gotten wrong. And even then, it's more like there was some intangibles I didn't know about his personality and his calming. And like it turns out maybe Flackhead was one of the few people who could sort of like synergize with him. Aside from that, like, if people don't know, me and LS were on the Inspired train in 2021 when he was on Rogue. We didn't have to wait till he got to EG and beat Blabber. And we didn't have to wait years till he was on FlyQuest to suddenly go, wow, this guy's amazing. We told you that in Rogue, mate. Like, he was nuts then. His problem back then was, if you remember, he had like super passive solo laners. So it was like, actually, the game was too much on his shoulders. So I will say, the reason why I love this take is SkewMond, first of all, I don't think he actually has bonkers mechanics, but this is why he's mega. I have never seen a moment in the game where I noticed a lack of mechanics. I actually drew this comparison to Diamond Prox, because Diamond Prox, by the way, could never do like the super insec. He just did the really slow insec. It's just he would land it every time. And that there's something about players like that where like they meet the threshold. I think Soaz was like this. He wasn't crazy hands, but you never noticed in a fight like he lacked hands. He just made all the moves happen. It's like, for real, it really was some meme shit of sports of like the game's moving in slow motion for these guys. You get that feeling when they're making decisions. And so I think the thing about SkewMond, I think, is nuts. It's the reason why he would be better than everyone except Tarzan, in my opinion, is I think he is just a fucking pathing god, bro. Like, his understanding, and it's not the shit of like, if I get this early game plan, it works. Like, his ability to switch up and decision making is fucking, it's impossible. I've just almost never seen anyone this good. And crucially, here's the thing. Everyone else who's been as good from the EU, bro, he hasn't even got 1.5 years into his career at the pro level yet. Like, they did it a couple of years in. Like, my boy Jankos took a couple of years to fully round out his game. Maybe Diamond Prox was good, but that was the beginning of fucking esports in that sense, in League of Legends. Like, and that was for a couple of years. So I think at the end, here's the credit I'll give to SkewMond. At the end of League of Legends, there will only be 4 European junglers anyone will ever have to give a fuck about. It is Diamond Prox, Jankos, Inspired, and SkewMond is the 4th. There won't be anyone after him. Razork didn't make the cut. He had the hands, he had some of the feel, but he never had the poise. He never had like the ability to come back into a game, never had the brain aspect to it. There'll be no one else. You can find about the rest. Like, if everyone's loving what's happening, I agree. I'm the same. Where Callista is clearly the next like super fucking ADC talent. There'll probably never be another Callista. There'll never be another SkewMond. I do think he is fucking insanely good. And the reason why, even though I totally agree with Zaboutine, unfortunately, it's really hard to like extricate a jungler from their team because they almost have to merge with their team. At the same time, I do think this is the closest to like an LCK best jungler we've ever had in EU. I think it's nuts. Also, isn't that a cool detail? Actually, also, funnily enough, he has, I used to say this about Inspired, he also has some very Korean things about how he jungles. It's masterful. Actually, the joke is, if he could just speak Korean, some Korean team would fucking be really good with this guy on there. I'm a wee mate. They'd be excellent. Like, you think about some of the macro teams would love to play with this guy.
And the perfect thing is, like, we touched on it there, and there's very few players I've ever seen this. I would put people like Doublelift and like Razork in the same thing, where they can match like Koreans in terms of like they have like the mechanics and like the really fast like reaction time and all that, but they're like prone to mechanical error because they play themselves into a box, right? SkewMond is way more like Froggen. Caps, by the way, would also go into that box, but he's kind of like the apex of it. But like, SkewMond's more like Froggen. It's the fluidity of his mechanics. He never seems to ever make like the big mechanical like blunder where he like forgets what Aatrox Q he's on. He's like, when he does like the Aatrox flash combo, he always does it and it like always lands and he always animation cancels it. When he's playing Xin he's never like terrain face flashing. He's always like moving onto the correct like target. He's always priming the ability like perfectly. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't actually have to be like the most rapid stuff, and he's picked onto it like straight away, and I 100% agree. And it's those players that are always going to match up the best against like the East, because that part of their game is so stable and so fundamental that the other parts of their games is what they can focus on, like you're talking about, like the pathing and stuff like that. And here's the other thing that I think like SkewMond's like fucking crazy around me, and I think he's going to give plenty of the East like headaches about this. See, like, around objectives and like keeping your like eye on like the Baron health and like the Dragon health and that, and not like getting like caught and like dragged into like the team fight. He is so good at managing both like peeling, damaging, and then also like going on to the objective. That's why he's such like a threat on Pantheon, because of the executes and stuff. The guy is like very, very impressive.
Crazy.
Is that it? I think that's it, isn't it?
I have a quick one, and I wanted your take, guys, because it's gonna get old after.
Okay.
The quick one is, I think that Gala is the biggest victim of Fearless in history of the game.
Because he was like a monster on 2 or 3 champions, basically.
Because if you look at his record all time, he has like 70 or 80% win rate on Kaisa. I think he has like 70 or 80% win rate on Xayah. And he has 52% win rate average aside from these 2 champs. So corrected from these 2 champ, he's a very good ADC on these 2 champ.
Yeah.
He was like the best ADC in the world. And if you look at all the campaigns, successful campaigns of Gala's in his career, it's always when the game was revolving around the the trifecta of Tristana, Kaisa, Xayah, and sometimes Ezreal, like this 4 champion. Because we used to have metas where like these champions were like straight better because of one item or something. And no, that's like there is a back to the mean because you have to play all the styles of ADCs. I do believe like seeing him, because I don't watch LPL, but seeing him playing international, it really felt like he was capped and he cannot block the draft anymore. So people don't have to draft around him anymore. At worst, they give him his champion, but he has 2, so he can still win 3 games. And so I think I haven't seen a player that's more nerfed than him in terms of Fearless.
I think, yeah, he's like a definite candidate. The other 2 was like Ben last year when he didn't have the execution of the other like carry picks, and he had all the lane swap stuff and that. Like that really hurt Ben. But it came back round again. I also think like Ben like just like thought maybe Fearless was actually going to fucking like end early or something, because it got introduced last minute into like China. They thought they were actually going to be playing on the fucking draft patch. And he actually just looked like he was refusing to fucking practice. If you actually tracked Ben's solo queue that year, he was basically just not practicing, like at all. And then the other one is actually, and this is more of a weird one, if you're into the LPL, it's actually Xiaohu. Xiaohu was really hurt by like Fearless, in my opinion. Not because he doesn't. Xiaohu later in his career now is someone who likes to have like 3 or 4 core champions, right? That he's like pretty good to like very good on. And because of the way mid lane, where like game 1 you pick one, take one, then game 2 pick one, take 2. He then ends up into a bit of like discomfort, like quite quickly into draft, and I don't actually think that would be happening to Xiaohu if he wasn't in Fearless. But yeah, Gala's like a definite proponent of that.
I mean, I will say, first of all, I actually definitely agree on the overall take, because especially his role. I mean, by the way, it's logical we'd have tops and ADCs. Those are the roles that just played 3 fucking champions and they just touch each side of the matchup all day long. And that was even what he used to practice. So the sad thing he has is this, Zaboutine. There's probably a load of other great ADCs in history of frauds too. They never had to play in Fearless though. They all retired and we'll never know. Like, for example, for all we know, maybe Ban could only play 3. Who knows? We'll never know at this point in history, will we? Because he got away with it. His career was being done. Also, I'd throw one more name in the mix. I think actually the whole reason Peanut had to retire is Fearless Pro. Like, I think it just exposed him so hard. Even at the end of the standard draft, he still only had like 2.5 champions or something. So he got badly fucking damaged by Fearless. Because remember, the beauty of Fearless is it doesn't. There's no context where you can ever play the same champion twice. So it just fucked him completely. It's not even like, like people would ban it. Like that's it's sort of relevant. You get banned by the game. That's the problem. That's also that's even, by the way, one angle I wish we would all do. We almost need to, because we do this in Counter-Strike, by the way. We actually have made a rule collectively as a community that we don't count CSGO exactly the same as CS2. There's some overlap. It's a pretty similar game, but we do take people who were never good in CSGO but good in CS2 and good in CSGO but not CS. And we do take it as a logical divide. I think we almost have to do that with Standard and Fearless too. Like, there are certain people just aren't. I mean, I'll tell you what, there's another guy on HLE also, my boy fucking Delight. When he could play the same 3 champs all the time, looked fucking world class.
Oh, he's Rakan.
You put him into some of these drafts where he has to play 5 champions and go deep, it gets fucking brutal, mate. Suddenly he's just a Korean support. He's not like one of the best players in the world. So yeah, it's about. No, I'm with you. I think it's a good, quick hot take. Obviously, if you want to be on the next hot take point made, subscribe to the Last Few Nation Discord and submit your take.